Yes, it's Mark and Pete.
Hello and welcome to 2017. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete.
Oh, yeah.
This is the show dedicated to religion, business and politics. And on this week's show, we debate celebrity, fame or fatality. Well, it seems that we've seen an extraordinary series of events over the last year with many passings of celebrities. Now, when we talk about celebrities, we're covering everything from business, politics, and of course, entertainment. Now, why is it that it appears as though we've lost many great artists, people like David Bowie, Muhammad Ali, Victoria Wood, and many others? If we actually look down the list, it's enormous. Yes, Sir George Martin, Johann Cruyff, Prince even, the pop star. What is going on? We've even lost George Michael. Dear, oh dear. Well, when we think about the price of fame, what is causing this? Is it the stress? Is it just simply the fact that there's some other weird phenomenon going on? Well, I'm going to set it up, this scene, with just a little thought, just to get Clergyman Pete involved. So, first of all, we go for... This is your life. Yes, we begin our journey in the warmth of the womb, then are born to the world and start to bloom. In class, we learn our heads have lots of room to discover wisdom and how to consume, just to see our careers finally bust and boom, at times smelling success like sweet perfume. Then it soon turns stale with gradual gloom. Still we brush aside regrets like a bristly broom. There is nothing that exists we can assume, as we soon find the feeling of impending doom. But before they close the lid on the mortal tomb, you quickly wish for normality to resume. Finally you ask God, what flashed by in a putrid flume? Well, it was your whole life that just went zoom. Yes, so with me today is the infamous, as well as famous, Clergyman Pete. So, Clergyman Pete, what is going on in the world of celebrity? It seems we're losing them all. They're dropping like flies.
Yes, well, the key word here, I think, is celebrity. What is a celebrity? A celebrity is someone who is famous, not necessarily someone who has achieved anything great, although it could be, not necessarily someone who has great talent, or it could be not necessarily someone of great wealth or great looks, or it's just someone who is famous. So we've got quite a broad term when we talk about celebrity. But the thing is, we know what we mean when we say celebrity. I guess it's people who are talked about and reported on in the news and the gossip columns. That's a celebrity, isn't it? So we're losing those people. Lumping them all together is perhaps a little unkind to some of them and generous to others. But what we're talking about is losing someone who is important to us in some way. Because we've been interested in them, or even if we've just been used to having them reported on, we've lost something when they die.
Yes, exactly. But I think that we need to just pick up on the point here, which is what is actually a celebrity? Because as we perceive that the last year seems to have lost a lot of famous people from all walks of life. Yeah. Now, maybe statistically, it appears on the surface that we have actually lost a lot of great talent in all different sectors. But maybe it's the fact that we today I find it much easier to be well known, this idea of being a celebrity, somebody who, as you say, that you follow. It could be a pop star, it could be an actor, it could be a politician. And, when we look down the list, we've got everybody, sort of, as we mentioned, David Bowie. We've got people from the acting world like George Kennedy, who won a Best Supporting Actor for Cool Hand Luke. I thought it was a great film, great actor, but, we sadly lost him. People like Debbie Reynolds, who sadly died after her daughter, Carrie Fisher. And then, as we mentioned, George Michael, somebody very, very young, only 53. Is it just simply the intensity of celebrityism? Is it that more people are becoming celebrities as a result of social media, the widespread use of television, video, online activity. So actually, maybe statistically, it's possible that the same number of people are dying, but it's just that we're now classifying them all as celebrities. Is that possibly the way we're seeing it?
I think you may have hit on it there. I think that's the underlying reason. It's an artifact of how we are defining someone as being a celebrity. And I just had to smile then as you were saying that George Michael was very, very young. Now, we were both in the same year at school, in the same school, but that means we're about the same age, and he's slightly older than us. That means he must be very young. As you say.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, so going back to the definition of celebrity has broadened, but it's not just that. It's that people now, it seems, aspire to be a celebrity, aspire to be famous for the sake of it, or a celebrity for the sake of it.
People who do blogs, maybe.
Pardon, what?
People who do a blog.
Do a blog or a podcast, yes.
Yeah.
But ridiculous people. Why would you do that sort of thing?
Exactly.
I mean, that is a phenomenon that we notice. Now, you and I, of course, are major celebrities in our own bedrooms. But apart from that, I don't think this would be an interesting experiment. If we were to fake our own deaths, would it actually be reported in the news?
Well,
Mark and Pete died recently. There will be no more Mark and Pete podcasts being produced. I think the world would go on. A world would go on. I think somehow.
I think it would, yeah.
Well, not for us, but you know.
Well, that's true.
No, you see,
not necessarily.
Yeah. So that here are these tragic deaths of celebrities, and when someone dies, you don't want to make light of it. It is not that it's unimportant. Anyone's death, anyone's life is important. Life in itself is important. So when one is snuffed out, it's a sad occasion because that person won't be contributing more. You won't be able to see them or hear from them anymore. But the question is, with when a celebrity dies, why are we paying more attention to this person than Joe Bloggs down the street who died? I paused there because I thought, now, is there some celebrity called Joe Bloggs who I've now diminished by not knowing that he was famous? But anyway, someone, John Smith, down the street dies, who hasn't managed to achieve any sort of celebrity, and maybe didn't want to, and they die. That's just as important to death. So why are we so disturbed when celebrities die? And as I say, I think it's something to do with our personal reaction to them. But it's not just that. It's due to the reaction of editors of TV shows, of magazines, who've decided that this person is a celebrity and therefore is going to be reported on. And that's why they've come into our lives. So it's rather arbitrary, isn't it?
Well, I think that we also need to get to this idea of why do people want to be a celebrity? Is it just simply through the idea of money? Is that the real incentive? Is it possibly just the idea of being famous? Maybe it's just the money isn't quite so important, but the recognition and the adulations that come with that. And when we sort of think traditionally of a celebrity, or the way I was brought up, was somebody who was on the silver screen, somebody whose name was in lights in Hollywood. And typically that was your classic icon, somebody who sort of adorned the screen, picked up the Oscars, walked away down the red carpet, and you thought, yes, now there's a celebrity. But of course, things have changed. Of course, it may be now with the concept of the Big Brother program, which is essentially where it could be somebody from everyday walk of life suddenly being a total unknown, thrust into the lens of the limelight, and suddenly they become a celebrity. Now, I think there's something quite interesting about this fly on the wall concept, meaning you tap into somebody's life, and I think what we're actually seeing here is this expansion of being a celebrity is something that we quite like. That no longer do we think that you've got to be a Hollywood star to be famous. Actually, you could be famous for what you do. It doesn't matter what you do. And actually, we're just more interested in the person. And I think that's quite interesting because it's not so much about the talent; it's about the person and their personality. So I think the whole shape of being a celebrity has changed.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
But unfortunately, it does have some downsides.
Yes.
To it.
No, I mean, now this, however, just that's the positive side of it, in that it makes it, if you like, a little bit more democratic, a little more egalitarian, and that almost anyone can be a celebrity, it seems. But if you're trying to be a celebrity, I guess it's because you want to be noticed. There's a bit of pride in there, a bit of vanity. And pride, I mean, the Bible says pride is a problem. Famously, Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. And so you're setting yourself up to go for a fall because of your pride. So in the case of George Michael, for example, he had become a little bit overweight, piled on the pounds a bit, and become a little bit of a recluse. Now, we don't know if this contributed to his death, but it may have done. Maybe that's why he wasn't getting enough exercise. It's very sad if his vanity, meaning that he didn't want to go out, didn't want to be seen, that he didn't pursue his career anymore. I don't know enough about him to say that was the reason. People have speculated the fact that he was spotted hiding in his flat and not coming out. Maybe his vanity was his downfall. Now, that certainly is the case with, whether it was with him, that's just speculation, but it certainly was with other celebrities. And the thing is, a celebrity is just a normal person, and they're subject to the same temptations and the same failures that all of us are. 1 Corinthians 10:13, another well-used verse, well-known verse is, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. And so we're all subject to temptations. So celebrities are subject to the same temptations. These temptations being not doing enough exercise, eating too much sugary and fatty foods, smoking, drinking too much alcohol, and maybe taking illegal drugs. Now, if you do all that consistently through into your middle age, you tend to die young.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, in this case, it should be no surprise that many celebrities are dying in their 50s, 60s, 70s, because many ordinary people do, and they really are just ordinary. So that's what happens when you don't look after yourself. You die young.
But yes, but I guess one of the question about being a celebrity is when you reach that status, usually fame and fortune comes. Why is it the fatality springs into the equation when they've got all the resources they could possibly want? They've got all the money they could possibly want and allow themselves to go down this rather slippery slope. What is it that we see here in this long list that we've seen of people who've sadly perished in the last year? And not all of them, of course, have died because of poor life sort of
choices,
habits, shall we say? And that's something that we should point out. But if we do look down the list, that perhaps some of them have been a little bit guilty of falling off the rails. And what is it that about being a celebrity gets you into that position where there's a turning point? There's a point where, is it through the fact that maybe they encounter failure, maybe that they're not seen and admired as much, and they just can't cope with falling off the pedestal? Is that possibly part of the reason?
Well, you see, my take on this is that that's what we perceive as being the case. There's some sort of great tragedy, great story behind it. It may, another story that's sort of put onto people, written into the story of their lives, whether it's there really or not, is that these great artists are also especially fallible. It's part of their artistic nature that makes them more likely to be homosexual and so catch AIDS. They're more likely to be susceptible to things like alcoholism and taking drugs because they have an addictive nature, and this is part of their great artistic nature. That isn't true. Someone who was an alcoholic or a drug taker, would have been a better artist if they hadn't fallen prey to that, and someone who someone who feels that they haven't achieved much in life may well turn to drink alcohol, but if they were a former celebrity, it may well turn them to just simply going on about how great they were, like you mentioned Paul Daniels, who was susceptible to that, but that didn't contribute to his death. So I think my theory is this is the Pete theory on celebrity deaths. They're just normal people and they die. And although there were more deaths in 2016 than the previous recent years, that's simply because there were more celebrities.
Well, and indeed, and I think we ought to sort of scale it here because, of course, being a celebrity depends on the circles in which you frequent. So, for example, in the world of science and academia, for example, we lost quite a number of people. For example, Henry Heimlich, who was the famous US doctor who was credited for inventing the life-saving anti-choking technique. This is if somebody was choking on, say, for example, a morsel of food, and effectively created this abdominal thrust that would actually prevent somebody from choking on the food, and it would dislodge the problem. So he sadly died. So how many people remember him? Now he died he sort of died in older years. Because we lost other people as well. How many people remember Lord Briggs? Yes, Lord Briggs, you may say. So he was the one who worked at Bletchley Park as a code-breaking person in World War II and would become a leading historian and adult education pioneer. So again, it depends on the circles in which you operate, I think.
Yes.
So there are many others that sort of sit in that area. So I think this idea of being a celebrity has to be sort of put into context. So, for example, you could be a celebrity in a business world, and many people will know you for your skills and your prowess as an entrepreneur, or possibly even in the clergy. I would imagine that you're quite well known in your community.
Well, I'd be well known. That bloke's the vicar. So I guess in a way, it's sort of a local celebrity in that case. Hopefully more than that, but certainly a local celebrity. And the interesting thing,
I know you have many people sort of standing outside your door waiting for an autograph.
Yes, no, they're waiting. They're
waiting you to pay the bill. Possibly.
Yeah, side checks. Well, no, the interesting thing is the people you mentioned, like Heimlich and Briggs. Now they died in very old age.
Exactly.
Now the real shock with celebrities is that many had died young.
Yes.
So the idea of them dying before their time. Princess Leia is dead, and it's interesting that you see here's our relationship with celebrities summed up by this little incident. Well, not really incident. This comment on the death of Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia, of course. When she died, they mentioned the fact that she died very young. She could have gone on for not very young, but she could have gone on for many more years. And this was sad. But fortunately, she had finished the filming of the second of the new Star Wars trilogy. So at least we get to see a film with her in.
Well, that's true, but
it puts in perspective.
Yes, I think that she was 60, wasn't she, when she died, which is still a relatively young age, I think, for somebody, in any walk of life. I mean, it's sad as it is, but yes, you're right. I mean, we do tend to sort of get a little bit sort of misty-eyed over what a tragic celebrity would be, somebody who dies very young, and I'm thinking of.
Let's just take. Yeah, go on. Sorry, finish your thought.
Well, I was just sort of thinking that this isn't new, because if you think in the past, people like James Dean, who I know sadly died through a car accident. I mean, he was very, very young. I mean, he'd only done 3 films mainly, and yet, he's an iconic figure in Hollywood history. Well, so actually,
maybe because he died young,
of somebody like him. Albeit that he died many, many years ago, of course, we do tend to sort of associate the great celebrity with youth.
Yes, that's true, and so he'll be forever remembered as being his youthful self. Whereas if he'd gone older and crotchetier and done some terrible films, he may not be remembered in the same way, or maybe done just brilliant films. He'd still be remembered in a different way than he is now. Now, Carrie Fisher, just taking her as an example, seems to have been a very funny, witty person. Great to know. That's just what people have said recently. I guess people are kind when someone's recently died, but that was, I think, the general idea was that she wasn't just a pretty face and just an actress. She was an interesting character in her own right.
Oh yes,
but what she is in one way a poor example here, in that she was known for taking drugs that would have shortened her life, recreational drugs that had her life. And so if she hadn't done that, she would have lived longer. If she looked after herself, she certainly wasn't looking very well when she filmed the first of the new lot of Star Wars, which I saw. She wasn't looking very well. So, what we can say is that just like anyone else her age, I'm not making a moral judgment on her. Obviously, it's a bad idea to take these drugs that are going to shorten your life, but it was her choice to do so. But anyone who did that will run the risk of dying young. So we mustn't think that there's some sort of mystique about a celebrity dying young. It's just as horrible when someone dies young, celebrity or not. It's nasty, it's unpleasant. It shouldn't be any sort of sentimentality about it.
Well, you see, now this is where I guess that we come to the sort of moral conclusion. And I thought, well, when I sort of think back in my youth, which of course I'd like to think isn't that long ago, but right. I sort of think, well, yes, wouldn't it be great to be famous and be a celebrity? And then I started to think again. So it's sort of drawing to conclusion. Now, I've got a little poem which is called "Limelight or Lemon Heavy." I want to be famous and known celebrity. I'm not bothered with honour or integrity. My name shall shine in bright glowing lights, with fortune reaching astronomical heights. The public would applaud at my very existence, and I may wave whimsically from a distance. I could cut a red carpet at a film premiere and strut along with my nose in the air. Fast cars and women I would find at my feet and send social soundbites with every tweet. With love for the limelight, I could rule the earth and gloat every day for all that I'm worth, marvelling in the mirror and looking quite gallant. What if I'm exposed as a lemon with no talent? I might stop occasionally and sign an autograph, then find reviews plotting my sad epitaph. After turning and churning my name into mud, I sense my fate and the baying of blood. So, for all that stardom is sickeningly synonymous, I'll stay at home and just remain anonymous.
Yes. I hope.
Maybe
would
after
that more?
All of our thoughts on celebrity, I think I'll just remain anonymous. Yes, and so welcome to the Pete Show.
Yes, and I just sign off
with all the fatalities that come with celebrity. So, listeners, join us again next time for more colourful conversations and more celebrityism with the Mark and Pete Show. Yes, toodle pip.